Welcome, everyone. You're in the PFRC breakout group. We'll be getting started in just a moment. And if you would like, please click on the polls, and you can go ahead and begin to take those questions. We're going to take a few minutes for everybody to go through those. They will be open, and then we'll start with Commissioner Steinberger, welcoming everyone, PFRC members and staff. Thank you.
So Brett, I should welcome everyone after we do the poll. And apologies, I just got my camera going. I realized I was fingering over it, so that was cool.
Well, just for everyone's information, the polls will be open for this entire discussion. As Mr. Stockton said, the poll is for PFRC members only. Everyone is welcome to sort of see the responses in real time, but just wanted to make sure that you saw the polls. There are 7 questions, and then we'll decide, Commissioner Steinberger will lead us in a discussion through these various questions. So you have plenty of time to answer the poll.
Where are the polls?
It's gonna pop up in the chat, is my understanding.
Yes, click on the chat, which is at the top bar, just to the right of the people.
Yeah, I have my chat open.
Do you see the polls?
No.
So I have a button in my command bar that says polls, but when I click it, I get a very brief message that says something went wrong, and then the screen turns black.
Fun. Okay. Do you want to try unsharing and then resharing the poll one time? And if that does not work, our backup plan is to do this by the hand raise function and a screen share of the relevant slide. So let's give technology one more chance, and then we'll do old-fashioned hand raising, or technology hand raising, as it were. Thank you.
Okay, now when I click on the chat function, I do see the polls, and they're called PFRC number 1 and so on and so forth. So is anybody else, when you click on the chat, seeing that?
I am not.
I'm not.
Okay, if folks are not seeing it, I think we will move forward with the slightly less technology advanced option. The first slide, if we can show the slide associated with the first question, and we'll use a hand raise function. I will attempt to take notes as well, so we can sort of get a feel for this. This is, unfortunately, the polling was working when they tested it earlier. Best laid plans. As a reminder, or really if you did not, hopefully you had a chance to review the materials for this meeting in advance as they were provided. But we are using, for the first 7 questions, a strongly agree, disagree, strongly disagree kind of spectrum on that. So that's what the poll will reflect. So in order to get a sense based on hand raising, I will ask folks to respond for strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree for each set of questions. Are those instructions clear enough to folks?
And I'm sorry, did you, I can only see a black screen. Is this going to be a verbal response?
It's not intended to be. It's intended to be a hand raise, but I will verbally read the questions. Do you have the ability to raise your hand?
No, I several people, when I accidentally kind of got bumped out of the group, and apparently this is happening to several other people. I'm just literally seeing a blank screen with no options that I usually see when I'm viewing a Zoom call or the like.
Great. Okay, and I cannot tell, I apologize, who was just speaking then?
Stephen D'Alessio from C2E2.
Okay. Hi, Stephen D'Alessio.
Hello.
Sarah, can you see? I'm sharing. I'm attempting to share the screen.
Is the content visible? That says breakout group. Please complete the 7 polls now.
Okay. Got it.
Now
good.
I'm seeing screen. Now I'm seeing the first question.
Yeah. So I'll be. I'm projecting the content. I'm happy to go question by question, whichever you would like to do.
Let's go question by question. I think that's going to be the most functional from this perspective. Is anyone in the Steve D'Alessio camp of all they see is a blank screen? Okay, Steve, you're special. You may give a verbal response. How's that
Thank
sound?
you. Appreciate
Okay.
it.
We are nothing if we do not accommodate on the fly. So that's what we will do.
Thank you.
Okay, for the first question, is everyone seeing the slide? Steve, you don't have to answer.
Yes,
Okay.
seeing the slide.
Right.
Also wanted to say I had the same problem as Steve earlier, and leaving the call and coming back fixed it.
Steve, if
sorry.
you'd like to try that, you are welcome to. If you then need to get put back in the group, that's fine. I'm also fine to accommodate you speaking verbally, so you can stay
Yeah.
in. That's fine.
I've actually already tried that, and it also fails.
Oh,
Then let's move
So,
There are only 5 PFRC members. There are
There are
only
what?
5. There are only 5 PFRC members, and so I want. How are you're actually talking to a PFRC member for the Career Center?
Well, there are more than 5 PFRC members, and we do have a list for the attendance purposes.
According to your website, there are 5.
I don't believe that takes into account the members of the Planning Commission who are also on the PFRC and some other
Yeah.
folks.
Let me,
They are
I'm looking at, this is Brett. Hi, good evening. Sorry. I'm looking at the list of people in this room. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 PFRC members in this chat room. However, there are other PFRC members that may not be in attendance this evening. So we'll have to work with what we got.
I think you need to speak with David Pretty, because it's my understanding that the only voting PFRC members are the project-specific PFRC members for the Career Center.
Well, the PFRC does not vote, number one, but it's, whoever's in attendance, it's, we don't have an RSVP system, unfortunately, for attendance. So we'll
I think you
have to
maybe
move forward.
understand what I'm trying to say. My
I believe
understanding,
you're trying to indicate is that there are additional people you don't feel should be on the PFRC who are being included in the PFRC. And I believe we're saying that that is not accurate.
not
Brett?
according to what David Pretty said at meeting 2. He specifically talked about this at the beginning of meeting 2.
Okay, I appreciate that feedback. That is not how we're operating tonight, and we're going to move forward with the poll so we can keep this going. But thank you.
Well,
Okay, so I'm sorry, yes?
I object to this, the way this is being run. It's not accurate.
Ms. Stewart, this is Chris Kreider with the Planning Division. The PFRC is a function of the Planning Commission, and you have county staff here. And perhaps what might help is if we all the PFRC members introduce themselves. So, and we are sort of keeping track of who the PFRC members. But this group is a function of the County Planning Commission. It's not associated with the school board. So Ms. Steinberger is a member of the Planning Commission, and we have county staff here tonight to work through these questions. So we really want to focus on the discussion and not necessarily the logistical elements that you speak to.
Well,
So,
I believe the logistical elements are very important, because I've been on various Career Center groups for many years now. I totally understand how the Planning Commission works. I totally understand the interaction between APS and the Career Center or in the county side. But the problem with our first meeting was that a lot of people for this particular PFRC BLPC meeting were that people who were not listed for the specific PFRC Career Center were also speaking. And then at our second meeting, David Pretty especially said that only the PFRC members that were specifically for the Career Center are supposed to be speaking. Everyone else is supposed to be guests.
that's correct. So we have the PFRC group for us. We have members of the public as well. So this particular breakout group is for the PFRC members only to have a discussion. And
PFRC members for the career.
yes,
It
ma'am.
it is my understanding that the entire PFRC is not supposed to be a part of this. They can be a part of the meeting in terms of viewing, but in terms of discussion, that is not my understanding. That's not
Yeah,
what David.
That's
Yeah, there are
that's
15
incorrect.
members.
So just to clarify, there's a standing body of PFRC members with representatives from different commissions, and then there are project-specific PFRC members that are appointed from the
Mhm.
neighboring civic associations. So the entire PFRC can participate in each of the meetings. So it's not only just project-specific members, but also the standing body of PFRC, again, which has representatives from other commissions.
I understand that that's what happened at the first meeting, but at the second meeting, we were specifically told that is not the way it's going to work. So I don't know. There must
To be
some.
clear, the PFRC operates separately from the school board and from the BLPC. This is a joint function with the BLPC, but the PFRC membership is not controlled by the BLPC or the school board. I appreciate the feedback. I'm sorry that it contradicts with what school board member Pretty said in the second meeting, but we are going to move forward. Thank you. Takis, yes? I see you've raised your hands. Is this for the poll?
For what it's worth, the PFRC process for this facility is the same like for any facility. So there are stakeholder-specific members, the 5 that Dr. Soward mentioned, and then there is the rest of PFRC. I have to ask my colleague, Mr. Pretty, to see what he meant by, by different apportionment of responsibility here, but this is the usual process, includes the entire PFRC, of course, including the project specific stakeholders and members. That I wanted to clarify from how I understand the rules of the game here.
I'd like not to waste all of our time on this right now. We have a lot of ground to cover.
Agreed. Thank you. We will commit to getting some clarification from school board member Pretty with regards to the comments from last time. And thank you very much, Takis. I appreciate the clarification as well. With that in mind, question number 1 should be on all of your screens. Steve, you accepted. With regards to the first question is, I support the overall ACC Arlington Career Center concept design. Can we have a show of hands for strongly agree? Okay. Can we have a show of hands for agree?
And I'll just say agree.
So that's okay. Brett, are we able to track that? I'm also trying to write down, but just in case, so we have a couple people keeping track on that one.
Bethany
okay.
and I think are keeping track here, so I see.
We got 2 hands raised and we have a verbal from Steve.
Okay.
Disagree? I'm seeing 1 for disagree.
I think Terry left his hands up from.
Okay, Terry, if you don't mind taking your hand down now after you've had it up before. So anyone for disagree? Okay, strongly disagree? Okay, I'm seeing 1 for strongly disagree. Okay, thank you. We'll go to the second question. Oh, already there.
Before we move on, Sarah, if we could just confirm, since we went through that pretty quickly between Bethany and I, just the count that we got there.
Sure, I got 3 for agree, 1 for strongly disagree, and no 1 for the other 2. It does appear that some folks may not have voted.
How many people are supposed to be voting right now?
So county staff and myself will not be voting since I'm facilitating, even though I'm a member of the PFRC. So Brett, can we get a run on how
Yeah,
many people should be
Sarah,
eligible to vote?
I think for everyone's benefit, it'd be important for the PFRC members to identify themselves so that the public, as well as, so we know how many PFRC members are in attendance.
Of course, I'm happy to. I'll start. Sarah Steinberger. I'm a member of the Planning Commission and the chair of the PFRC in an additional role. I am, however, not voting tonight as I'm chairing or facilitating this meeting. So, thank you. Running down my list, Tenley, would you like to introduce yourself next?
Sure, I'm Tenley Peterson, and I am a member of the Planning Commission, and I'm specifically on the PFRC subcommittee of the Planning Commission.
Thank you. There are, just to clarify, there are 3 slots for planning commissioners on the PFRC, and Tenley and myself fill 2 of those slots. The next person I have on my list is Chris Slatt. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I'm back. Thank you. Chris Latt, representing the Transportation Commission.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Sergio Enriquez, are you online? Nope. Steve Baker, Stephen Baker? No. And I apologize if I mispronounce anyone's names. Jeffrey Sertosimo? No. Todd McCracken? Hans Baumann? Terry Prout. Terry, I saw you. I know you're there.
I'm here.
Terry? Hi, could you introduce yourself as a member of the PFRC?
I am Terry Prowl. I am the member at large on the PFRC.
Thank you. William Staterman? No. Mike Hanna? Kathleen McSweeney? Andrew Moore? Marion McGavran? I heard a noise. Marion, are you there? No. Christine Brittle?
She's in the PFRC tonight. I'm sorry, the BLPC.
Okay, thank you. There is some overlap where a few folks are represented on both the BLPC and the PFRC for this project. And so they had the option of choosing which meeting they would attend. Polly Hall. Christy Sowert.
Here.
And would you introduce yourself?
I'm Christy Sawert. I'm the PFRC Specific Career Center member for Arlington Heights Civic Association.
Thank you. Okay, so we've run through the list. Again, PFRC members are all invited and included in the meetings in the process. The attendance is not required, and there's not an RSVP process before. So as you can see, we do have some folks who are not in attendance. Chris, I wanted to return to you for a second. You indicated you had just come back. Did you have a chance to vote on question number 1, or did you miss that?
I attempted to vote in the chat because I missed the actual original vote.
Okay. Could you just tell us what your vote is? And
Agree.
We'll agree? Okay. So the new tally that I have with regards to question number 1 is 4 for agree, 1 for strongly disagree. Brett, did that cover what you asked in terms of your records, or Ben, whomever was recording?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, great. So let's go to question number 2. I support the overall ACC building design. Can I see hands for strongly agree? Can I see hands for agree?
Agree.
Okay. I believe that's coming out to 4 agrees because Steve, I have your verbal plus 3 hands.
Yep.
For disagree? And for strongly disagree. Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll go to question number 3.
Can you read the
Can you
result?
put up the screen?
Are folks no longer seeing the screen?
No, we're just seeing the people.
I can see the screen.
I can
I
see the
can-
screen as well.
I can only see all of your pretty faces.
Well, I'm thrilled you think that they're pretty, but we want to get the slides back for you. So maybe unshare and reshare. Ben, I think that's what you're doing. Yes, Ben, that is true. That is what Ben is doing. Okay, thank you, Ben.
Correct.
Can you
Resharing now.
Can you recap the vote, please?
Thank you
For
very
question
much.
number 2,
Yes.
I believe I've done that, but 4 agree, 1 strongly disagree. Can folks see question number 3 now? Is the screen being shared again?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And Steve, I appreciate that when I ask those questions, you don't have to answer. I understand you're not seeing anything. Okay, for question number 3, the massing of the new ACC building fits the PFRC principles of civic design. Strongly agree? Can I see hands? Agree? Oh, sorry, Chris, was that for strongly agree?
Yes.
That was for
Strongly.
strongly agree? Okay.
And sorry, could you repeat the question one more time, or?
Of course. The massing of the new ACC building fits the PFRC principles of civic design.
Okay.
For strongly agree, I had 1.
And me too.
Sorry, 2. Okay. Thank you. For agree, can I see hands? Okay. I have 2 for agree. For disagree? For strongly disagree? Okay, thank you, everyone. To recap, that was 2 strong agree, 2 agree, and 1 strong disagree. We'll go to question number 4. The question is, the statement is, I support the configuration of the new ACC building to provide useful public space. Can I see hands for strongly agree? Can I see hands for agree?
Agree.
Okay. I'm getting 3 for agree. Can I see hands for disagree? I'm seeing 1 hand for disagree. I'm sorry, Tenley. I thought I had you under agree. Are you changing your vote, or did you not vote and I misread?
No,
before?
I did not agree with this one.
You did not agree. Okay, and you did not vote in the prior one. I apologize. Okay,
Yeah.
so 1 for disagree.
This one.
Appreciate. Thank you. For strongly disagree. Can I see hands, please? Okay. Thank you. We're going to run through the rest of the poll questions, but I am going to want to come back to number 4 as part of a larger discussion, since there's a little more range on the responses there. I think we can tease out some more there that will be useful for us to take to the school board. So for question number 5, the statement is, I support the multi-use plaza concept for space outside the new ACC building. Can I see any hands for strongly agree? Thank you. I got 1 for strongly agree. Can I please see hands for agree?
Agree.
I see 1 hand and 1 voice. Oh no, 3. I'm sorry, 2 hands and 1 voice for agree. Thank you. Any hands for disagree? Okay. I see 1 hand for disagree. And then any hands for strongly disagree? Okay. Thank you very much. We'll go to question number 6. The statement is, I support the proposed parking garage in its general configuration. Can I see any hands for strongly agree? Can I see any hands for agree?
Agree.
Okay, I'm getting 2 for agree. Can I see any hands for disagree? Okay. I'm getting 2 for disagree. Can I see any hands for strongly disagree? Okay. And Brett and Ben, I apologize. I realized I failed to do recaps on the last couple. Do you want me to recap for going back how far before we move on?
Maybe
Or-
on number 5 and 6.
Number 5 and 6. For number 5, I got 1 strong agree, 3 agree, 1 disagree. For question number 6, I got 2 agree, 2 disagree, 1 strong disagree.
That matches what I had.
Excellent. Let's move to question number 7. The statement is, I support the proposed school bus and service vehicle movement on the site. Can I please get any hands for strongly agree? Can I please get any hands for agree?
Agree.
Okay, I'm getting that as 3 agree, 2 hands and 1 verbal. Can I please get any hands for disagree? Okay, I'm getting 2 disagree. And any hands for strongly disagree? Okay, thank you very much. I am inclined to return to questions 4 and 5 now before we go to the more open-ended conversation questions, so we can kind of tease out any concepts before we get into the meatier portion. I think that will be a better use of our remaining time. So just as a reminder, we did have a little bit more of a spread on questions 4 and 5 and in terms of responses. So I wanted to sort of tease out some themes there a little bit before we move on to the open-ended discussion questions. So as you can see on your screen, well, most of you can see on your screen, for question 4, the statement is, I support the configuration of the new ACC building to provide useful public space. So we had 3 agree, 1 disagree, 1 strong disagree. Can we, I'd like to hear from the folks on the call to kind of discuss, you know, how they responded to that, if they would. And we'll take some notes to make sure we're capturing, you know, information that the school board and the PFRC ultimately need to have to kind of understand how people are feeling on that particular statement. Tenley, you've raised your hand, so I will call on you first.
Thanks. So this relates to my response disagreeing with the parking garage. And just in general, kind of one of the planning principles for Arlington generally tends to be that parking should be below grade. And just looking at materials that had been presented earlier in the process and that are currently linked to on the Career Center FAQs page, they referenced a slide that said 500 above ground spots costs 50 million, 500 below ground spots costs about 30 million. So $15 million difference. And it seems to me that, you know, and Takis, you can kind of weigh in here if you want. You know, Arlington County is always looking for more public space, always looking for more park space, always looking for more space to keep green. And so I know the county board gave the school board a specific budget that they couldn't exceed, but I think this might be a unique case where the county board says, like, look, for $15 million, if we just put below grade parking, we could get a public park in this spot that the kids use during the school day. And in the evenings and weekends, it's open for the community to use. So that's I feel like we're missing an opportunity here to have more public green space. And I'll just say I was talking with Planning Commissioner Weir about this too. And he also was like, why aren't we doing below ground parking? We expect every applicant to do below ground parking. And here we're kind of not kind of holding ourselves accountable to that same expectation. So that's my feedback there.
Okay, I appreciate that feedback. Would anyone else like to? Yes, Ms. Sauer.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make everyone aware that, as everyone knows, I'm actually on the sports commission, and everyone knows that the field space is in extremely short supply. This plan takes away a T-ball field that is very heavily used. It also takes away a lot of all of the green space on Walter Reed, and also a very heavily used playground that is heavily used off hours by the children that live in Fillmore Gardens across Walter Reed. Fillmore Gardens does not actually have its own playground, and the kids there use, and all neighborhood kids, but especially kids surrounding that area. So I wanted to make that point. So in our view, in Arlington Heights' view, the plan overall reduces the amount of usable outdoor public space, and especially given the uncertainty about whether the MIPSA building or the existing Career Center building will be torn down. We're overall losing a lot of green space.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. Prowl.
I think Tenley made a very good point. I guess I had not looked to see how little the difference in the above ground and underground were, the cost of them. And $15 million for a park these days in Arlington with what land cost is not very large. I think that I should have probably reconsidered my vote on that and say that I disagree that they are using this, giving us enough public space.
You know, I'm a reasonable person. If you would like to change your vote, I'm willing to record it as such. Were you an agree and now you're a disagree?
That's correct. Thank you.
You know
I would
what?
like to do the same.
You only
I
live
find
once.
Commissioner Tunley quite convincing and would like to change my vote in the same way.
Whoa, look at that. All right. I now have 1 for agree, 3 for disagree, and 1 strong disagree on question number 4. Are the votes standing as so tallied?
Thank you for that discussion.
I'm glad we were able to do that. If anyone else would like to speak on question number 4, I will entertain about another minute of conversation on that before we move to question number 5 for some discussion, and then I do want to move into some of the more open-ended questions.
Sarah, just as a comment, I neglected to mention I'm here as a resource. I could answer questions if folks have them. And Tenley, thank you for your clarification. I wasn't sure quite where those numbers were coming from that you were comparing. And the intent of that slide, and I believe the response was written as such as those were comparative costs, not necessarily absolute costs. Just wanted to make sure that comment was mentioned. It gets very tricky to sort of compare those types of costs without doing an apples for apples kind of comparison. But we, like I mentioned in the large group, are the cost information we're going to share with the school board, identify a cost for that specific to that parking structure for these kind of conversation purposes.
Thank you, Ben. And that was Ben, who again is a resource for us for questions. So thank you. Chris, your hand is raised.
Yeah, I did just want to say one of the reasons that I agreed earlier is I do want to speak in support of the way the concept of building is sort of articulated or stepped along Walter Reed Drive to kind of create some space for some public space there along the front of the building. I think there's some great opportunities there. So I didn't want to let that support get lost in my change of vote.
I appreciate that, and I have made note of that comment. I still see one hand raised. Ms. Prell, is that from before, or did you have another comment? That hand is
Sorry, I'm just not good at this.
Nope, that's okay. It's, we're all processing with the technology tonight. I do want to keep us moving, so let's chat about question 5. We put that on the board, the shared screen as it were. So again, we had a little bit of differentiation here in terms of the tallies. So I had a strong agree, 3 agree, and then 1 disagree. So could we talk through, would anyone like to share any specific feedback with regards to this? Again, the statement here is, I support the multi-use plaza concept for space outside of the new ACC building. Ms. Sauer.
So we think the concept of a multi-use plaza is a good one, but the size of the plaza does not seem to be large enough to host any significant community events like a farmer's market or the Columbia Pike Blues Festival. So we like the idea of the plaza. It just seems very small to us. And yeah.
Okay. Understood. Would any, Ben, maybe this is a question for you. What are the dimensions on the plaza space? Just for my awareness or context to the group.
I don't have the specific dimensions, but the, it would be on the order of probably 30-foot minimum, because we would certainly be 2 travel lanes plus a little something more generous. The way it's articulated on the slide in that brown color sort of indicates the multi-use plaza, but part of it will extend to the front of the building as well, and it may seem more seamless there. So I think that's something we could develop a little bit more in schematic design. I don't know that as it's being defined there would be necessarily representative of the final condition.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Prell, I believe I saw your hand raised, although it may have gone away again.
I mean, I have some concerns about having a plaza in a place where we know so many buses will be traveling. I mean, I think it's only going to be for community use. I think during the day, we know so many buses at different times use the Career Center, and that is also the bus lane, that it becomes a much less useful plaza than it might appear during school hours. I do agree that it's nice to have some plaza, so I agree, but I think it's not, I don't want people to think they can go there when there's traffic on it.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Prell, now your hand is raised, but I believe maybe you meant to put it down.
I was taking it down, I thought. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's why I mentioned it. Okay. Making sure that I've captured some of those notes. Thank you. Did anyone else have anything to discuss on, or you wanted to share for question number 5? Okay. I'd also like to actually see, we had some differentiation on question number 7 as well, so we could put that one up for a moment. I had 3 agree, 2 disagree, so I'd like to discuss question 7 as well. Would anyone like to speak to question number 7?
Sarah, if Stephen can't see it still, do you mind just repeating the question?
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I had forgotten that. Sorry, Stephen. Question number 7, the statement is, I support the proposed school bus and service vehicle movement on the site. And Ms. Sauer has raised her hand to kick us off to discuss item number 7. Ms. Sauer? You are on mute, ma'am.
Sorry. We appreciate that the traffic flow allows for an exit onto South Walter Reed in addition to South Highland. However, we have some significant concerns about whether the design will sufficiently house all the buses that will visit the site. And it's our understanding that APS is even saying that not all the buses serving the Career Center will fit into the bus loop once the program is expanded and you have all, I guess, 1,500 to 1,700 students in the new Career Center building. We would like APS and the county to consider more staging on 9th Street if possible. And then also, depending on which building is torn down. If they are torn down, it seems to us that the bus route would have to be redesigned, which is going to cause a lot more cost down the road. And this is another place where the lack of long-term planning creates problems and additional expense. It's also unclear to us how the bus traffic will operate during the phase construction. Will construction potentially block access to South Walter Reed? And in that, if that happens, it seems to us that South Highland will not be able to handle all the anticipated bus traffic, especially during pickup and drop off for MITSA, which occurs on South Highland. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Ms. Prowl, you have successfully raised your hand, and I'm hoping that means you have a comment.
I have a comment. I
Yes,
noticed
please.
on the plans that I no longer saw a a cutout for along the front of on Walter Reed. There were supposed to be a cutouts for cars to park, and I did not see that. And I was wondering if that was some of the place they were anticipating along Walter Reed, that buses would actually be staged along the new ACC building front.
Ben, are you able to address that as a question?
Yes, I can. So Terry, we're sort of intentionally not assigning functions of the curbside spaces at this time. We've had several discussions with county staff around particularly the street frontage along Walter Reed, and we're not far enough along in those conversations to feel like we could collectively propose something that works for everybody. Some of the agreement that we have reached is basically realigning the curb in front of the new Career Center building to remove the current indentation. That's something that Arlington County has been supportive of, and we're going to further investigate that if we go into schematic design. I know that the Complete Streets program has a really high priority for protected bike lanes in this path, for improved bus stops and crosswalks at several locations, and even a signalization at 9th Street. So our design has to be take that into consideration, and has to be compatible with that. So I guess the vagueness of the graphics at this stage was somewhat intentional, and knowing that we need to further work on that in the next phase of design.
Thank you, but I do remember having been mentioned previously that there would be curb cuts, but I would cut into the lawn and areas of the public space on the front of the new ACC. But thank you. I do think it is too early, but thanks.
Chris, I see your hand is raised. Mr. Slatt. Mr. Slatt, did you wish to make a comment?
Yeah, it would help if I unmuted, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to say I think this flow is dramatically improved from what was shown earlier. I think it's a great flow from a flexibility perspective. It gives us a lot of options as far as entering from Walter Reed or entering from Highland, given the way the arrows are shown. I can't see devoting more space on campus to vehicle circulation than this. I think this is an appropriate amount, but this does kind of, I think, give flexibility if buses do need to stage on street. Gives options for a very obvious and orderly flow to stage either on Walter Reed approaching the entrance curb cut there on Walter Reed, or to stage on, I believe that would be the east side of Highland, the campus side of Highland, as they are kind of queuing up to come to that curb cut there. So I think this gives us a lot of options going forward, and is a great starting point.
Okay, I'm conscious of time. I do want to keep us moving. We're going to look at question 6 briefly, because as Mr. Creator pointed out to me, there was some disagreement on that one as well. But I'm limiting us to like 2 minutes on that, because we still have the open-ended questions to go through. And I want, we lost some time at the beginning, so I'd like to make sure we can get to those. We touched on some of this when we addressed question number 4. The statement for question number 6 is, I support the proposed parking garage and its general configuration. Would anyone like to make a comment? Again, if your comments were captured in discussion on question number 4, that has already been recorded. And you can simply say, I agree. Yes, Mr. Slatt. I apologize. I'm going to let my dog out of the room because he has just started growling. Mr.
No.
Slatt, please make your comments.
Yeah, my main thing is I think I can be supportive of this parking garage configuration with the proviso of what we discussed earlier about this seems like a lost opportunity to go underground. But other than that, I can be supportive if we can commit to street improvements on this block of 9th Street. Right now, this block of 9th Street functions as a bike boulevard. It's a critical link in the 9th Street bike boulevard, and bike boulevards only work on a low traffic condition. And if we put a 500 car parking garage that enters on 9th here, it is not going to be a low traffic condition anymore. So the only way I can see myself supporting this parking garage here is if it comes with a firm commitment from the county for protected bike infrastructure on this block to deal with the increased traffic that will come on this block of 9th Street with it.
Okay, thank you. Tenley?
I just wanted to say that I agree with Chris's points. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sauer?
Yeah, so we obviously appreciate dedicated parking. Our concern about the placement, the specific placement here is that it's very far away from the buildings it's meant to serve. So if it is serving MIPSA and the ACC, it's far away in terms of ADA accessible parking. And so we would like the county and APS to consider parking underneath the new ACC building. This is a problem that we also had when Fleet was built in terms of accessible parking and being able to get from the garage to the actual Fleet building. It was not very suitable for children that had accessibility needs, and there was a lot of retrofitting that had to be done. Also, I've had people that live in the duplexes there at the south end of South Highland Street. They are very concerned because when you have 2 large parking garages above ground next to each other, so the ECDC parking garage and number 5, that parking garage creates kind of a tunnel effect very close to those duplexes. And so I have had neighbors express concern about looking out their window, their first floor window, to seeing basically what would be a tunnel down 9th Street.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to question number 8. So again, these are the open-ended questions for discussion. I believe we've already touched on some of these in the other questions we've addressed to this point, but if there are new comments to be made, we will address them now. For question number 8, identify additional concerns with the proposed concept design. I do feel like we've had significant conversation on that through our comments to questions 1 through 7 so far. So I would be inclined to move to question 9 because I think that will address some other items in more detail. If there's anything to be addressed under the concept design that has not been raised already this evening, as we've discussed the other questions 1 through 7, please raise your hand now and we'll give it a moment for discussion, but otherwise we'll move to question number 9. Okay, I'm taking silence as, okay, Ms. Sauer.
Yeah, so the feedback of the neighbors that we got in Arlington Heights is basically people felt like they could not support the plan because of the uncertainty of how many buildings are going to be there and what the long-term use is. And again, we're with 3 buildings on the space, we're losing a lot of green space and we're losing areas that children use in our neighborhood, especially the T-ball field, etc. So yes, that I think generally it's obviously a nice building, but it's generally the uncertainty and of what is going to happen with this campus that is problematic.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Slatt? Chris, are you on mute?
Gosh darn it. Thank you. Yes, it would help if I had my camera on so you could tell more quickly. I wanted to associate myself with those comments from the previous speaker. It is really hard to answer questions like, are we creating good public open space when we don't know how the buildings in the rest of the campus are going to be changing over the next few years? You know, it's like you look at the configuration proposed for that field and where the parking garage is and where the existing buildings are. And you say, well, if this building's going away, wouldn't it make more sense to orient the parking garage over here? Or if this building's going away, wouldn't it make more sense to turn the field this way? It's really hard to say with any confidence that we are making a good plan right now, not knowing what is going to happen going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to question number 9. For the statement for question number 9 for discussion is identify specific areas of the project that should receive further development or focus during the schematic design phase of the ACC project scheduled for May 2022 to September 2022. So I think we've again touched on some of this, but if we wanted to identify, and some of what I've heard so far is perhaps the garage is something that would take some additional consideration here. If folks would like to address that or any other points that should specifically get a higher level of development and focus in that schematic phase, please share those thoughts now.
This is Stephen. I look over the FAQs and has there really been any discussion about electrification of the building or making the building zero carbon?
Ben, I will defer to you, but I do not believe so.
So that's not something we've discussed in detail in the public committees.
Okay.
I think that APS as an organization really stress high sustainable standards. That said, I think something like a net zero building on this site is probably unlikely given the constraints that we have. Okay. Geothermal is not likely an option for us given the location of a well field, for instance, and the type of energy consumption that these specialized CTE programs use make a total offset really difficult. We'll still intend to apply our general strategies for sustainability from well insulated envelope, high performance equipment and things of that sort. But it's unlikely we'll get to something like a net zero like we have at some of our recent elementary schools.
Okay. Could I guess that have that still noted as an area for further more and more information in the future?
Yeah, and I made a note of that, Steve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Prell?
You
were on mute. Nope, now you're off mute.
Okay. I was unclear from looking at the schematic design if there was a playground associated with the teen parenting program. There has traditionally been one, and I could not tell if the teen parenting program, looking at the internal design, included the children being in the same location as the teen parenting, or if there is anywhere on this plan a playground for those children.
Yeah, Terry, so our ed spec addressed the inside spaces of the building. So if you went there looking for a tot lot, it wouldn't be specifically listed. But in the advanced materials we provided on Friday, in the ground floor plan, I believe we identify the teen parenting early childhood education section on the ground floor. And there's like there's a green rectangle just plan north of that, and that is the intended tot lot. So there will be an outdoor play space for that program, just like there is today. You're back on mute, Terry.
Yep.
Thank you. I thought that was possible, was that green triangle, but I wasn't sure, and I wanted to be sure that was included. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you. Ms. Pearl, your hand is still raised, but I understand that to be from your prior comment. So would anyone else like to make any additional comments or otherwise address anything kind of under items that should receive further development or focus during the schematic design phase? And again, that's planned for May 2022 to September 2022. If we have any further comment to address in that regard.
I'm back on.
Oh, that's intentional. Hi, Ms. Proud. Yes.
It's intentional. I have a question. When I looked at the interior in their gymnasium, I remember at the Heights there was a big concern about how expensive it is, or maybe it was at Reed, excuse me, how expensive it is to build over a gym to make it quiet enough so that you can actually have programs. And I could not tell from that schematic design how tall the gym was and what exactly was going to be over it. And I know I would not want that to be compromised.
Thank you for that feedback. Ben, is that something you can address or something that is just for additional focus in the schematic phase?
No, I can address that now. The comment is well taken. So part of the feedback that we received is relative to building up instead of out. And in this particular program, there's a lot of competition for things that want to be on the ground floor. And so the consequence of that is the gym is not on the ground floor. It's actually on the third. So that presents, challenges in itself because of acoustic separation and such. So what we have planned based on the concept design is immediately under the gym are the PE support spaces like the locker rooms and the changing rooms and such. Things that obviously wouldn't be as disrupted with the noise from the gym above. So we are cognizant of of the special care needed to take care of that circumstance. At Cardinal, the building we just completed, we do have 2 floors of classroom above a gymnasium, and we were able to successfully separate it from an acoustical perspective.
I'm going to take Tenley and then we'll go to Brett.
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate the point that was just made about making sure there's proper soundproofing. I attended what was supposed to be a lovely theater event in a black box a couple years ago that was directly adjacent to, I think, a middle school gym, and like the basketball game or something was going on, and it impacted our theater experience so much. And so I think if we do want to be able to use the 2 spaces concurrently, if you all can, make sure that it is soundproof, I think that would go a long way to being able to use all the spaces concurrently. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brett?
Yeah, I just want to remind everybody that we just got the 10-minute warning, or I guess now it's 8 minutes until we're going to be put back into the main meeting room. If we wanted to do any recap, Sarah, I think now would be the time to do so, and then we'll probably be kicked out of here about 10 till 9. So just a time check there.
And I know Daryl has a quick finger on that button to yank us back in. I think I was removed mid-comment last time. So I appreciate everyone working through this evening's questions with us. I will recap some things, and I will please, Brett, Chris, Ben, and other folks on the county side, if there's anything I miss or information you would like to, further to the group, please do share that. My memory and pen are not perfect. We spent some time discussing the parking garage, both in the context of sort of appropriateness to have above ground versus trying to figure out the cost to move that underground and what that would do to the Budget, the impact on field space, should the parking garage not be able to be moved underground, and sort of the loss of green space overall on the site was a recurring theme this evening. We heard that in response to a few different questions. Certainly the community, as illustrated by the representative from Arlington Heights, was very clear about the impact of some of the lost green space, field space, T-ball space, and other elements that might be impacted by the plans for the site. We discussed with regards to the overall kind of stepping and structure of the building. There was some positive feedback for the way that that is kind of stepped down along Walter Reed Drive. With regards to the plaza, there was support for a plaza in concept, but there was concern that maybe the plaza was not large enough for all the functionality and wishes for the community to use the space, and the impact of the buses on the space, and when that space might actually be usable by the community at the Career Center and by the general public as well. Then we also discussed, in terms of like what hours that might be available. With regards to the bus kind of flow through the space, there was support for having exits on both South Highland Street and Walter Reed, but there is concern about the volume of buses overall and will that be handled by the site. That was further highlighted to lack of a long-term plan potentially for the site. Questions were raised about the phased construction and what would that mean in terms of blocking access to Walter Reed for any period of time. Could South Highland handle the volume from traffic? Discussed a bit whether or not a cutout might be on Walter Reed that it had not been determined at this point in time, but is something to be left for later, perhaps into the schematic design phase or there beyond. We talked about concern for bike access and what that might look like on 9th Street, and making sure that, that's part of a key connection to the overall bike plan. As far as parking, there is appreciation that there is dedicated parking, but a concern that it might be too far away from the buildings to be served. Also, the impact of having too large, above ground parking structures nearby and the impact on the community from that. Overall, talking about the long-term plan and, whether or not that has been identified and can be clearly enough identified to make some of these decisions about the impact in the future for the Career Center. And that was heard from a few different folks in a few different ways across some of the questions. As far as items that should receive further development or focus during the schematic design phase, we talked about the sustainability plan for the building with regards to electrification and otherwise. We confirmed that there would be, or is expected to be, a playground associated with the teen parenting program. And then we talked about the need to make sure that the gym was a quiet enough space that other activities could take place in it, surrounding it. And again, I believe, some of the topics we talked about with regards to the garage would also fit into that sort of future conversations with the schematic design space as well, from some of our earlier conversations. Is there anything with regards to a recap that on the county side, anyone else, would like to fill in any gaps that I missed? I'm happy to be told.
Yeah, net zero, the carbon net zero. I think you forgot to mention, but I have that in my notes that I'll send to you.
I was covering that in sustainability, but I do actually have a note that says net zero, but thank you. I appreciate that. Steve, you were heard. Okay, anything else from a recap perspective? Ms. Sauer?
Yeah, can you just add as far away accessibility issues for disabled people?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks.
Yep, making a note. And I believe that that is something that had been raised in at least one of the prior breakouts that I led, I think in meeting 2, with regards to the location from parking. And that was something that was a concern in terms of, how far we're asking people to walk with regards to that space. Okay. Well, we have 1 minute to spare, and we made it through what I think was a productive conversation covering all 9 questions. I truly appreciate everyone's time this evening, and the ability to get substantive feedback from a range of stakeholders involved in the process. It's a long process, and I appreciate that everyone has demands on their time, especially in the evening. So I appreciate everyone making the choice and the time available to participate. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. It was a great job.
Yeah,
Thanks.
nice-
I'm not
very
sure what
nice
to do
work,
with 30
Sarah.
seconds of dead air until we get pulled back into the main
Yeah.
group. But my puppy left the room, so I can't even show him off. So we'll just stare at each other.
You can look
Oh,
at,
wait,
you can
there's
look at
dog.
my,
Oh
you
no,
can
that's
look
a
at my
cat.
cat.
That's a cat. Sorry.
Does the county
I saw
have a
fur,
plan?
not dog.
Does the county have a plan for parking when the garage is being taken? Or where are people parking now and where will they park in the transition?
There is a mention of how this will be phased. So during the construction, people will park where the field is, where, the concept plan. So basically where they're parked today, specifically there are some relocatables there. And once the building will be completed, then the idea is after 2025 to construct the new garage. So that is theoretically taken care of. So the
Thank
field,
you.
that's the concept. There are many intermediate decisions until we get there.
All right, thank you guys. See you back in the other room.
Thank you all. Oh, we're closing in